Keynote presentation. So. Before we continue, again, I'd like to thank our Venture New York sponsors, New York Ventures, SUNY Research Foundation, Woods Obiak Gilman, Phillips Legal, Griffith Institute, Upstate Medical Biotech Accelerator, Fuse Hub, Launch New York, and NextCore. Please don't go away. Next, it's my pleasure to welcome Ed Mitzen, serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, and co-founder of the Business for Good Foundation. Ed Mitzen is a visionary entrepreneur and the driving force behind a number of successful businesses. He is also a passionate advocate for using business as a force for good, and has been recognized on the Worthy 100 list of global visionaries, as well as the Albany Business Review's Power 50. As the author of More Than a Number and Wealthy and White, where he uses his platform to explore economic inequality, ethical leadership, and social responsibility. Alongside his wife, Lisa, he was also honored with the Capital Region Chamber's Changemakers Award in recognition of their deep commitment to community development. Hey folks, I can hear you. I can hear you all. We good? Excellent, because I'm really excited about Ed Mitzen coming and speaking, so please join me in welcoming Ed Mitzen.
I've known Shelby for a long time. We live in Saratoga together. Don't let the nice attitude fool you. She's cheap as hell. I'm not getting paid for this. We'll talk about that later. After I saw those presentations, I thought I was going to retitle my talk, "Yes, even dumb guys can build successful companies." It's amazing to see the talent up here, and you guys are so far ahead of where I was and most people are at your stage in your college careers. So congratulations, and I'm excited to speak with you today. Hopefully one day, in the not too distant future, some of you entrepreneurs will either be up here judging on panels or giving the talk. I have no doubt when you see the level of just ingenuity and smartness that came out of those presentations, it's really incredible. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'd like to talk about is not so much the future today, but where you guys are going to be headed and where you're going to be going in today's sort of crazy topsy-turvy world. My name is Ed Mitzen. My wife and I started the Business for Good Foundation back in 2020. The Business for Good Foundation focuses on helping people in underserved communities make more money. So whether or not that's through entrepreneurship, small business growth, workforce development, first-time home buying, that's sort of our sweet spot. Lisa and I put $30 million of our own money into it when we started it, and since that time it's grown, and we've had some incredible successes, primarily in the capital region around Albany, but we've done some work as far as Oklahoma and Florida. So my day job was I started and founded a company called the Fingerpaint Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency and platform. I started it on April Fool's Day in 2008 on a card table in upstate New York in Saratoga Springs. It was about a 400 square foot office. Today we have 800 employees. We do about $250 million a year in revenue, and we've got a market cap of about $1.1 billion. And if you saw where I grew up and where my wife grew up, it's been sort of like fantasy land for us for the last 4 or 5 years, especially since we sold part of the company. So I've built 3 or 4 businesses in my lifetime. I did that with getting a 430 score on my SAT verbals. I barely graduated from Syracuse. I had a 2.8, and the only reason why I had a 2.8 is because my last semester I got to take racquetball and scuba diving, and that bumped up my GPA a couple of points. But I am here to give you some hope that if you're not the valedictorian, or you're not the the savant, that you can still be very successful in entrepreneurship and business if you do some of the things that I'll recommend to you. Let me just. So. I'm not here to give you a blueprint on how to start a business. I think anybody that wants to give you a blueprint is probably trying to sell you a book. There is no blueprint in how to do this. I want to spend some time talking about what I wish people told me when I was your age and in your shoes that they didn't. And I also want to spend some time talking about the moment that you're stepping into, because it's genuinely unlike any moment in my lifetime or my parents' working lifetime, or frankly in anyone's working lifetime, what's currently going on in our business world. There's a statistic that Goldman Sachs came out with a few months ago that said that 25% of all jobs are going to be automated through AI in the coming very short period of time. That can be pretty scary. I'm not trying to be the AI doomsdayer. That's sort of a cottage industry right now. But I think it's important that everyone sort of understands the world that you're walking into. I'm old enough to remember when the internet came out. I'm old enough to remember when cell phones came out. I'm old enough to remember when we got our first microwave, when it was about the size of a picnic table in our kitchen. We all thought we were going to die from radiation poisoning if we had microwave popcorn. When the internet came out and when other technologies came out, it came out at a very fast pace, but nothing like we're seeing today. Where you're looking at, in the past it was years of evolution. Now it's days and months, and the speed at which everything is going is frighteningly fast. One of the things that it's not slowing down. The people making decisions inside the companies that you are going to try to sell to, or work for, or compete with, they're not waiting for the dust to settle, right? They're restructuring right now. And I'm not here to scare people. I just think that you are building companies at a hinge point in economic history that we have not seen, at least in my lifetime. And I mean that literally. You have to go back to the Industrial Revolution, to steam engines and factories, to find a moment that rewired the deal between human beings and their work as fast and as completely as what we're going through right now. When the mills arrived in the early 1800s, they didn't change the way what people did for a living, they changed what a living was, right? Whole trades disappeared inside a generation. Whole towns reorganized around factories. A farmer's son became a wage worker, and 2 generations later, nobody remembered how to do the work that his father was doing or grandfather was doing. And it's happening at the speed of light. And it's not happening on the factory floor, it's happening and being rewired in the cubicle. The law offices, the marketing departments, the SaaS programming, the hospital back office. The same people who built the American middle class in the 20th century are right now watching the ground shift underneath them in real time. The world your professors prepared you for doesn't exist anymore. It's already outdated. And I know that can be sort of a daunting thing to think about, but the org chart that your parents lived in is now being rewritten and restructured. The expectation that a 4-year degree and a good resume is going to lead you to an equal, stable, upwardly mobile life, that deal is being renegotiated as we speak. And it can be a little bit scary. The question everybody's asking is how do I survive this, right? How do I pivot and build something that helps people come out on the other side of what we're currently going through? It's what entrepreneurship is really for, right? To solve problems, to find solutions, and to create a value and a service that currently is in need and solves a big problem. The one thing that gets me excited about, there's a lot of things that get me excited about AI, but the one thing that gets me really excited when I think about being Chicken Little and the sky is falling and all these jobs are going away, is think about all the really screwed up systems we have in this country. Look at healthcare. That needs a huge disruption, right? You've got the higher ed area is ripe for disruption. All of these big organizations and big industries that have been sort of coasting for years are now going to have to reconcile with change that's coming at a hypersonic rate. And that can be very, very exciting. Sometime between, when I was growing up, most of my parents and their friends were blue-collar workers, right? They were exterminators. They worked in the city hall. They worked in construction, roofing, electricians. And what they used to tell us, and I'm 58, but what they used to tell us was you got to go to college because this roofing thing sucks. It's hot as hell. I can't feel my legs after every day. You got to go get a degree and get a good paying job. And that worked great for me. But I think that a lot of people nowadays we did a study at the Business for Good Foundation with the Harris poll, and we surveyed 2,000 people to find out what's their ideal great job. What's a great job? And it's changed dramatically over what it was 3 or 4 years ago, where people are looking for jobs where they can build things, where they can use their skills. Those blue-collar jobs that normally we sort of dismissed are now coming back into favor because an AI chatbot's not gonna wire a data center, right? It's not gonna fix a leak in a plumber in a plumbing situation at 2 in the morning. Now, why am I telling a bunch of entrepreneurs this that are probably not going to want to go and become an electrician? I think it's important that you understand what you're walking into, and as you think through problem solving, some of the challenges that our society is going to face. The woman that was up here talking, I forget her name and I apologize, who was talking about the financial literacy and the widening of the wealth gap. That thing is on hyperdrive right now between the haves and the have-nots, and it's only going to get worse. So anything that you can do as an entrepreneur to fix a problem that's going to help a large majority of people, I think is a great thing. I'm also, I'm not here to bash higher education by any means. I went to Syracuse for undergrad. I went to the Simon School down the street for grad school, and it was an incredible experience for me. Tom Golisano, the guy who owns this building, actually taught one of my entrepreneur classes. This is back in the 90s, so I'm dating myself. My ad class was taught by the creative director who got fired when Michael Jackson's hair caught on fire during the Pepsi commercial. So I've got that as a claim to fame. But the economy runs a lot more on than just knowledge. The ground is moving, the definition of work is being rewritten. This is what you guys are built for. A few months ago, our foundation announced a $25,000 grant to an organization called the Seat Center, which is in Schenectady. They basically help kids that have sort of lost their way get into the trades and learn electricians, HVAC, plumbing, contracting, sheetrock. And I walked through their construction lab and I saw these kids that are normally, historically, the American dream left them behind, and now they're going to come out, they're going to make $100,000 a year, they're going to not have college debt, they're going to work in a union, they're going to get union benefits, and they're going to have an opportunity to really excel. And I think that's incredibly exciting. You need to understand where the market you're going to be working in is actually operating in. Not the market you read about, not the ones your professors tell you about, but the real market that's going on in America right now. And it's a challenging time. A big part about, in my opinion, about being a successful entrepreneur is there's several keys to success, right? The first one is you obviously have to work harder than you've ever worked in your entire life. It is a very lonely job to own your own company. You have to act like everything is great when the sky is falling, when you can't make payroll, when you're waking up at 3 in the morning with a panic attack because you're not sure if you hired the right person. It is a soul-sucking, exhausting journey. Why are you laughing? You agree with me? I tell people all the time, you want to know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. For most people, Thanksgiving is a time to get together with your family and friends and watch football and eat and have a couple of cocktails and maybe take a nap. For entrepreneurs, Thanksgiving is a Thursday, right? It's just another day. You get up, you check your emails, you go call clients and thank them for the work, and then you take 2 hours off to watch the Giants lose, and then you go back to work, right? But I think that one of the things that's incredibly important about being an entrepreneur is not thinking so much about mission statements, thinking about cash flow and all that stuff. It's thinking about the bigger goal. Why am I getting up in the morning and doing this? Whose life am I making better? How am I closing that wealth gap? How am I helping people through my solution or my service or my AI product? How am I making the world a better place? How am I making it better for my employees, my customers, my clients, my family, my community? That's been a big part of my success in my career. I'll tell you a funny story. I don't admit this very often. So I used to run an 800-person marketing and advertising agency. I have no idea how to make an ad. I don't know how to build a website. I don't know how to use InDesign creatively. I don't know how to do social media tracking. My secret sauce is I can get people in a room, I can have the courage to hire people smarter than me and give them the tools that they need to be successful and not feel like I've got to be the smartest guy in the room. If I do, remember that 430 SAT verbal score, we're in trouble. And also giving them the tools that they need to be successful, making them feel valued and rewarded, and then also showing them that we give a shit about making the world a better place and doing things in our community, giving back to the community. People want to work for people that they feel have a soul and aren't just in it for the money. When COVID happened and a lot of my younger employees were really freaked out, for obvious reasons, everybody was freaked out. But my wife and I made the decision and we paid off everybody's student loan in the company. It was about $4 million. And we basically paid off everybody's loan that they owed. My poor assistant had to write like 160 checks. She was pitching at me, still pitches at me about it. But that has become sort of lore in our company that Ed did that. And I did it because I was able to, and it was the right thing to do. And I had parents calling me, I had kids calling me, thanking me, crying, saying, hey, I just went to my first blood drive. Or I just did my first community cleanup day because I was inspired by what you did. And I did it not only because I wanted to show that I cared and to help them, but also to show that if I needed them to come in on a weekend to work on a campaign that we were working on that was due Monday, it wasn't so that I could go out and buy myself a boat. It was so that we could keep this company going and we could pump it back into the people, and it would, sort of all together we were working in combination. And that's how you build a culture, that's how you build a company. You as leaders have to show empathy for the people that work for you and for the people that you're trying to help. If you make the work valuable and if you help make people's lives better through the work that you're doing, I was thinking about that when I was listening to the EMTs talk about their technology to make the ER experience, the ambulance experience smoother. That has real value. I know nothing about that industry. I don't know if it'll work, but the fact that you're thinking about ways that you can improve the human experience, I think is very, very important. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur because you want to get rich, you're not going to get there that way. The money will come. right? If you build a great product, if you build a great company, my wife and I never thought that we would have the financial blessings. It was never even, we just tried to put the kids through college and try to build a nice business, and then we ended up, selling the part of our company for hundreds of millions of dollars. That we never even dreamed of that. So I would encourage you not to just chase money. That's a zero-sum game. Chase the idea, chase the problem solving, feel the rush of you against the world, and that's going to inspire you to keep on going. Give me 1 second as I flip around here. I have to wear glasses, so I printed these really big. As a result, I've got like 37 pages up here, so if I get lost, that's why. By the way, if you're admiring my tattoos, this was my midlife crisis. When I turned 50, I decided to get my arms done. So I know you didn't ask, but I figured I could tell you. Let's see. Okay, I want to talk for just a couple of minutes. Look at this. Can you guys see this? I'm making a mess up here. I said that I wanted to give you some practical advice, so I did want to give you some practical advice about being an entrepreneur if you guys end up going that direction. Number one, resilience is the only moat that matters. You're going to hear from the judges and all that. They're going to talk about the importance of IP and your network effects and your proprietary data and all that kind of stuff. I'm here to tell you that the most important thing is if you get punched in the face, which you're going to, can you get back up? And can you keep fighting? And it's never going to be easy. You're going to take 2 steps forward to go 1 step back. Your family's going to wonder where the hell you are because you're working so long and you're never present because you're always stressed out because you're trying to launch this company. But it's very important that you recognize that you're going to get knocked down. When we started Finger Paint, we had about 25 people in the company, and we lost our biggest client. We commercialize pharmaceutical products. So Skyrizi, we named that. You're welcome. I know you're probably sick of that commercial. We had about 30 people in our company, and we lost our biggest client because it got rejected at the FDA. FDA said you need to do more clinical studies, therefore we're not going to launch this drug. I had half my company thinking, okay, Ed's going to come in and lay half of us off, right? Because we didn't have the business. Fortunately, I was at my wife's colonoscopy appointment, and I was stuck in the waiting room for 4 hours trying to think about how the hell we're going to get out of this. And I basically came to the conclusion that we're not going to lay anybody off. I'm going to go out and sell and bring in more ad business, and we're going to tread water and duck paddle, and so we can keep the lights on. And I'm going to bring in projects that aren't sexy and they're not glamorous, and you're not going to want to do them, but they're going to get us through this time. We're not going to lay anybody off, and we're going to keep going. And that galvanized the company to the point where I think that actually, when we only had 30 people, that was a triggering point for the kind of company that we were building. The image that we wanted to bring, how we wanted to treat our staff. And that kind of stuff, you're going to get punched in the face quite a bit. And if you keep getting up and you keep fighting and you keep recognizing that, look, if it was easy, everybody'd do it, then I think you're in good shape. Build resilience now. It's like a skill. Learn how to sleep. Learn how to sleep on planes. I'm a master at that. Exercise. Have friends outside of your startup because you're going to need sort of some type of balance, because usually what happens when you start a company is it becomes all-consuming and it becomes your life. And you don't want to have it. It's easy for me to say this now. It's not easy when you're in it, but when you have a bad quarter, you don't want it to just impact your life, or you get a bad, you get bad information from your funders, or the bank is lowering your line of credit. You've got to just be resilient and do the best you can, because like I said, it's a very lonely job. Number two, and I know this is true, even though it seems sort of counterintuitive to the AI world, but people are the business. You have to learn to take care of the people that work for you. You have to learn to take care of the people that, you know, your contract employees, your vendors, people that you're working with. I mentioned that, you know, I don't know how to make an ad. My secret sauce was always being able to interact with people. I could sell people, I could convince people to come and join us, that we were building a great company. I could convince them that we were going to do great work, and if we got it wrong, we would fix it. But there was a certain authenticity to the way I dealt with people, which I think helped us to grow our business. You don't have to be necessarily the expert in every part of your business. Bring on people, like I said, that are smarter than you. I would also say build your network like your life depends on it. If you're not following me and the other people on LinkedIn that spoke up here by tomorrow, you're missing out on an opportunity. I network with so many people and have over the years at all different levels of an organization, whether or not it's the CEO or the junior product manager. You got to try to meet as many people as you can and not get stuck in a cubicle, you know, just punching a spreadsheet. Get out there and meet as many people as you can. Be your own best promotional vehicle out there promoting yourself and your business. That's a huge part of being successful as an entrepreneur, is building out that network. You don't know, I mean, you may find a partner in this room that may be a future partner of yours, a future investor, a future employee at your company. So leverage networks, leverage relationships as best you can. The other thing I would say is pick the right place on where to start your company. I got a lot of value. So we started our company in New York. I was going to start it in New Jersey. I looked down there. The cost of living scared the crap out of me because I was broke when I started. So we settled into upstate New York, where we had a low cost. We had a very motivated employee base that loved the area. They didn't want to move to New York City, or they had lived in New York City working for ad agencies and wanted to get out and buy a house and not have a 2-hour commute to work. So we were very strategic in how we set up our company, and we felt like we could build it geographically. And I know geography tends to not be as important as maybe it used to be, but if you're looking to encourage employee bases, if you're looking to get politicians and local community folks to help you grow your company, you're going to get a lot more impact out of some of these smaller cities in upstate New York and around the area than you're going to get if you go to San Francisco, where you're one of 10 million companies. There's tremendous value in being in a state, despite all of our problems and all of our political bullshit with all the regulations and all that. There's value in being in upstate New York and tapping into the talent. There's incredible universities up here. It's affordable cost of living. The politicians, are very apt to help. Your local Congress people. Kathy Hochul, the governor, has become a friend of mine. If I ever need anything, I call her up. She puts me in touch with the right people, and we make problems go away. So don't ever feel like you have to. I'm not saying that New York's for everybody, and I'm not being paid by Shelby, but there's real value in working in a community like this, or Buffalo, or Syracuse, or Albany, Woodstock. There's tremendous value in working in those areas. And the fact that you can still get to New York City with a car ride, or Boston or Montreal, at times makes it very, very appealing to start a company here, especially when you want to keep your costs as low as humanly possible when you start out. The other thing I would say is the AI thing is real, but look, everybody in this room is either using AI. You used it for your presentations, or you tried to figure out how is AI going to screw up our presentation. How are we going to not get funding because somebody's going to look at it and say AI is going to take over your job in 2 years. My take, for whatever it's worth, the founders who are going to win the next decade are the ones who use AI most aggressively, but they're the ones who understand with real clarity where it can work and where it doesn't work. AI's fantastic at volume, it's fantastic at pattern matching, it's fantastic at turning a blank page into a draft. It's not good at judgment, it's not good at taste, it's not good at knowing which customer to fight for and which one to fire because they're a pain in the ass. It cannot sit across a table from a potential client and talk to them about their issues, their concerns, convince them that you're going to do everything you can to be a phenomenal partner for them. That's a human job, and it will be a human job for the rest of your working lives. So don't try to out-AI AI. I would say use it ruthlessly for things it's good at, and double down on the things it can't do. I want to close up. My wife Lisa says a lot. I live on an animal rescue farm. We have 150 acres, and my wife loves animals. So we rescue, goats, pigs, donkeys. I got a blind cow. I got retired racehorses. My wife built a doggy daycare and training and boarding facility. She donates all the profit to animal rescue. She also realized that many people will not bring their pets to a daycare facility if they have to go into rehab or they have to go into domestic violence shelters because they're afraid they're going to lose their pet. So she fosters them, and then when they come out of rehab or they come out of the domestic violence shelter, they can get their pets back. Why am I telling you this? Lisa always says, it's not good enough to do well, you have to do good. And we both sort of grew up in that mold, that it's important to make the world a better place. I know it's not easy to do when you're scrapping for those dollars and trying to work 70, 80-hour weeks to try to get a thing off the ground. But once you start to make some money, or once you start to get an idea that is starting to really germinate, don't forget about the people that have been left behind, because there's a lot of them, and it's going to get a lot worse. So I would encourage all of us to, especially in the business community, to do more for the people that that are going to be struggling. And hopefully, as I talked about a lot of these vocational and trade jobs, hopefully we can help get a lot of people back on that path to an American dream of home ownership and good schools and safe education and safe environments. But I just think it's important as business leaders that we remember that, and I think a lot of times it's lost. I get very frustrated when I see somebody build a $550 million yacht. You can't build one for $100 million and maybe put $400 million towards a food shelter or food pantry. I don't know, but the country needs entrepreneurs more than ever now. A lot of the typical paths to success are changing and shifting, and entrepreneurs, and especially the ones that harness the AI, are going to be the ones that really help succeed, or help society succeed. And I think you're going to be very successful if you can make it. So it's not easy. You're starting at a company, or you're starting companies at a moment when the country needs entrepreneurs more than it ever has. The middle class is under pressure. The skill gap is widening. Whole communities are fighting to hold on to economic dignity in the face of a fight that feels bigger than they're able to fight. It's not a reason to despair. Let's get to work and figure this stuff out. I think it's an incredible time in our country's history. I'm very, very excited about what's going to come out of this room and what's going to come out of the rest of the smart people that, I'm 58, I'm running out of gas. I don't have time, I don't have the effort to energy to do it anymore. I know these guys that have built companies, it's exhausting. But you're more powerful than you realize, so go build something that matters. Not just because you think you can make money at it. Build something that makes your hometown a better place to live in than when you were there. and build it with people you love in a place that you love for reasons you can say out loud without flinching. If you know, at the end of in 5 years, nobody's going to remember who won this contest, right? They're going to remember what you guys built, what you did after you left here, and I would say that getting back to when I started. If I can build a couple $100 million company, honest to God, anybody can. I did it through a lot of hard work, treating people right, respecting people, giving back to the communities, and working my ass off. And I just want to congratulate everybody here. You're so far ahead of where I was when I was at your age. I was probably stoned watching Pee Wee Herman at the fraternity house in Syracuse. Dusty 2.8 GPA. I actually wanted to go to med school, and I met the guy who was running the medical college that waitlisted me 2 years in a row. I met him, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and I was teasing him, like, hey, you didn't let me into med school. 2 years in a row, you waitlisted me. He's like, Eddie, I'm sorry about that. So he came back at the next board meeting, and he says, Eddie, he says, I want to apologize, we should have never waitlisted you. And I'm like, thank you. He's like, I can't believe you got on the wait list. Your MCAT scores were shit. I don't know how they even waitlisted you. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. And I gave him a hug and actually thanked him for not letting me into med school, because now I have my own plane. And I didn't have my own plane that I got into med school. So anyway, good luck. Congratulations to all you guys.